A lot of people mistake seduction. They have really bad ideas about it. Seduction depends on the fact that people lack something in their life, and you are going to be the one supplying them. The process of seducing is making the other person fall in love. She's hooked. He's got the little hook in her. You can take her wherever he wants. There are plenty of books written out there about how to pick up women or guys in a bar, but the seduction isn't about that. Seduction is a form of power. And basically what you're doing is you're getting people to kind of do what you want in the end, but they don't realize it because you are so clever and you're so indirect and you give people a feeling of pleasure, right? That their defenses go down and they feel comfortable around you. They like you, they may even love you. And now you can kind of move them in a direction that you want. And people say, well, that's so ugly, that's so manipulative. But that is what seduction is. And it's not necessarily so ugly because it leads to, affairs, to romances, to perhaps marriage. It is kind of a pleasurable game. Yeah. And the idea behind it is that in the world today, people do not have enough pleasure, right? It's probably the one thing that they're missing the most. They're so wired, they're so working so hard, they're so, single-mindedly focused on their careers, et cetera, that they're not having any pleasure. And then in our social world, everyone is so selfish and narcissistic that no one is really giving you attention that you like. Like if I were to try and seduce Pani, I would figure out what makes you different, what makes you unique, what you love in life that nobody else is giving you. Things from your childhood, things that make you excited, that you love, certain colors, certain flowers, certain gifts, certain places. And I would give that to you, right? I would get into your world instead of being obsessed with myself. I would get outside of myself into Pani's world, and I would say, this is what she is missing in her life, and I'm going to give it to her. The power of that is absolutely immense because nobody is giving that to you in general, right? And so a simple example would be, we have a conversation at a restaurant at night, we're having dinner, and you say some things that you're not really paying attention to, and they're just sort of off the cuff, but they kind of reveal something that bothers you or something that you really are excited about. And then the next day, I bring up what you said in a different form, perhaps. I kind of quote you or something, or I give it a different spin. And I don't call a lot of attention to it, but to you that goes, wow, Robert was actually really listening to me. He heard what I said. He understood kind of what was behind my words. That's really interesting. Nobody ever does that, Yeah. Okay, and as that happens, you start becoming a little less resistant. You start seeing Robert in a different way. You say, maybe this person can give me things that I don't get from other people. It doesn't matter if that other person isn't the handsomest person in the world or isn't all buffed out or et cetera. But they understand the psychology, right? They understand for a man what a woman is missing, or for a man what a man is missing for a woman. They understand this. That's what gives you the degree of seductive power in life. And that can make people fall in love with you. It can also mean in your office, you're not making people fall in love with you because that's kind of creepy, but you're making people like you. They feel charmed. You have a certain presence about you that you're empathetic, that you kind of understand them, that makes people want to be around you. Because within the sexual realm or in marketing, you're too direct, you're too forceful, people will go, that's ugly, I don't want anything of that. You're in my face. But if you're indirect, if you come from here instead of from here, they have no defenses. They go, wow, I'm going to buy your product. I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to like you in the office. I'm going to have sex with you, or I'm going to fall in love with you. So it's an incredible, powerful device that fewer and fewer and fewer people in this world understand, right? Fewer and fewer people in the world are actually good at the seduction game because for whatever reason, we're not used to it. In the world of Tinder, etc., it becomes an app. It's not anymore your psychology. It's more like boom, 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 right? But what's more important is understanding people's psychology, not an algorithm. That's like a machine. That's like a computer. That's not human. Humans have emotions. Humans have psychology. Humans have weaknesses. So get out of that bloom, bloom, bloom. Spend time around people and get inside their worlds.
I'm revealing the secrets that a lot of men use. And there are men out there who have a radar for picking on women who have just the right kind of insecurities, just the right kind of vulnerabilities that they can prey upon. And for them, that would make the perfect victim. Seduction depends on the fact that people lack something in their life, right? And you are going to be the one supplying them. They're missing something, okay? The word for love, eros in the erotic, comes from the god who shoots an arrow into someone and wounds them and poisons them, right? So falling in love and seducing is creating a wound in the other person. They need you. You're going to fill what they can't get on their own. So somebody who is completely happy in their life, who's got everything they want, is very hard to seduce. Now, if you're a great seducer, a top-level seducer, you will always find something that people are missing. Nobody is completely happy. Even the very happiest person actually is probably covering up something. And so you'll be able to find that. But the woman who reveals that she's unhappy, that she's got vulnerabilities, that she's been wounded before, and there's something missing in her life, that's like, whew, I can ride right through that. I can be the one to supply. I can be the one to make her happy. They're much easier to seduce. So the trick in seduction, of male or female seduction, is when you're not there, the other person is thinking about you. That is when you've succeeded. That is the game that you're trying to play. Because when you're there, they're seeing you and things are going on, they're thinking about you. But when you're absent and they're thinking about you, then you've gotten under their skin. If you're not there and they're not thinking about you, then your seduction isn't working. So the whole point is to create a fantasy in which they're going, One of the things I talk about is creating mixed signals. Like, people seem to be good, but they also show a little bit of an evil sign. And so the woman is thinking, who is this man? Do I really know him? What is he really about? I'm intrigued. And he's sort of touched on certain fantasy and points, and her imagination now takes over. She starts thinking about him. She starts imagining him as if he could be playing one of these great archetypes of the male seducer, right? He could be the rescuer. He could be the hero. And so because she has an imagination, a vivid imagination, she's enveloping him in all of these fantasies from her point of view. And so if the male seducer knows how to feed a little bit her imagination so that when he's not there, she starts enveloping him in this. There's a famous French writer named Stendhal who wrote a great book called On Love, one of the greatest books written about love. And he compared to falling in love to what he called crystallization. And it's based on this thing where you would throw a piece of wood into this mine in Germany somewhere at Salzburg, and then you would pull it out like a week later and it would be filled with all of these brilliant crystals. And he compared that to the process of falling in love. The person is just who they are. They're like a trunk of a tree. But your mind kind of puts all these qualities on them, crystallizes them into some kind of ideal figure, right? Where in your mind, crystals are forming, where you're imagining this person is fantastic and has all these fantasy elements. Well, if the woman has no imagination, is so matter of fact and so businesslike, you could do all of the tactics in the art of seduction, and she won't be thinking about you. She won't be enveloping you in these fantasies. If you're a male seducer, you know how to create that fantasy by having a picture of holding a little cat. Oh, he's so sensitive and wonderful, or a dog, and creating this kind of image that's going to feed women's imagination. She's hooked. He's got the little hook in her. You can take her wherever he wants. So using that and being very clever with how you present yourself with the image and the words that go with it, You can feed that imagination factor. So when a man's trying to seduce a woman, the woman, there's a wariness. Women have much more to lose in a seduction than the man, right? Men, they'll sleep with anybody practically, right? We all know that. A woman has much more to lose in that process. So women are wary, right? And so you have to overcome their wariness. You have to create some trust. And if you're an honest seducer, you're creating honest trust. But if you're a dishonest seducer, you're creating a false sense of trust. And one of the strategies that I talk about is you become their friend. And when you're their friend, and this is a longer seduction, this will take several months because you can't do it in a couple of days. When you become their friend, you don't seem so threatening. The trust element comes into play, right? You see them as someone who genuinely likes, for a man who wants to be their friend. Well, on one hand, it might be insulting that he doesn't see me as attractive, but on the other hand, he wants to be my friend, and it's very kind of flattering. Well, you get that friendship going, and then you inject something else. You start bringing in some of that sexual element, some of that erotic element, and the trust element that has been established makes it very difficult for the woman. She becomes very confused, and because she's been emotionally connected as a friend, it's like a bridge to creating a connection sexually. So starting off by lowering their wariness of you, their suspicion, by trying to be their friend means, he's not just interested in sex, but he might be just interested in sex, but he's using this tactic to kind of lower your suspicions about him. And often there's usually a letdown after that initial sexual encounter if you have it too early, right? Whereas opposed to letting time go by and letting the other person begin to think about you and fantasize about you, and in their mind sort of imagine some interesting qualities about you and fascinate them, which is what he calls this crystallization process. I mean, literally think of it that way, that you're, in their mind, they're kind of forming this sort of ideal crystalled image of you, right? And it takes time, and it takes some absence. It takes the ability to say, you're not in their face all the time. You disappear for a couple days, a couple weeks or whatever, not weeks, but a few days. You let them think about you, and you let that kind of spell, because seduction and love is kind of a spell that you're casting, right? And there's an art to it. And so the mistake people have is they're in too much of a hurry. Well, I maintain that the process of seducing is making the other person fall in love. I try in the art of seduction, I make the point that political seduction, marketing seduction, social seductions, because in your office you're continually seducing, it's the same process. And it's getting the other person to think about you and getting them to fall in love with your product, with your idea, with your political platform or whatever it is. And that process of internalizing that other person, of having their presence, their spirit or whatever, inside you, inhabit you, and you're thinking about them a lot, is a process of falling in love. So it doesn't mean that there aren't seductions where you're seducing the other person and then it's over after a month, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to lead to a relationship. There are plenty of books written out there about how to pick up women or guys in a bar, but the seduction isn't about that. It's something else. It's something more elemental. And I talk in the art of seduction about how it goes back to our childhood, how we are incredibly vulnerable to the emotions of other people. It begins with our parents, right? And the sense of, we internalize their presence. We're thinking about them. We have this kind of very deep emotional attachment to them. We're seduced by our parents in some ways. It kind of sets a tone from early childhood, this need to feel vulnerable to other people, right? A lot of people mistake seduction, and that's the reason I wrote the book. They have really bad ideas about it. Well, they have an idea that it's this kind of cold process. Typically, it'll be a male seducer, but it can be a woman, and they're really conniving, and they're coming up with all kinds of tricks to get the woman or man to fall for them, and either they're after money or sex or something else, right? And actually, seduction is a matter of vulnerability. It's making yourself vulnerable to the other person. And, we live in times where people have a hard time being vulnerable. If you're insecure, if you're filled with a lot of anxiety, you tend to close up inside of yourself. And to let another person in and to let them have some control over your emotions can be kind of a scary process. But if you can't feel that vulnerability, if you can't open yourself up to the power of that other person, there won't be a seduction. It'll be this kind of cold, mechanical process.